Chapter 670, Sudden Arrival. Amidst the dizzying sensation that threatened to separate his spirit from his body, Lumion saw trees that seemed to slumber in the darkness and a pitch-black boulder. Finally, he removed the brown glasses from his nose and arched his back slightly to alleviate the discomfort. Even an ascetic wouldn't be able to use the mystery prying glasses for long. Of course, this ensured his safety to a certain degree. Through this prying, Lumion confirmed two things. First, the area beneath Hisoka's house was indeed unusual, but it seemed more like an illusory symbol than an actual entity. It indicated that this place had once been corrupted or influenced, with the most severe occurrence taking place underground. Second, this influence was connected to the black boulder deep within the primitive forest. How did it go? Maslow, his face painted white, asked. Lumion stored the mystery, prying glasses back into his traveler's bag, and smiled. The abnormality I saw here originates from a black boulder deep in the primitive forest. Have you ever seen or heard of that black boulder? The pale white Riza and Maslow, his black hair falling over his shoulders, shook their heads in unison, indicating a negative answer. Lumion wasn't in a rush to do the second thing he had planned for the night. He glanced at Riza, who was wearing a thin, formal suit and appeared to be a mix of Intijan and West Balam heritage. He casually said, "I thought that with your arrival, some people in Tizimo would gradually leave and stay in Port Pylos for a while. As you know, the Dream Festival should start within 3 days." Riza calmly replied, "Based on my experience, except for those who have only arrived in Tizimo in the past 2 weeks, it's best not to leave this place and go elsewhere to prevent any abnormalities from spreading. It should only be considered after the Dream Festival ends and the primitive tribe launches another attack. Very standardized process. I thought you would consider the opinions of Intis, Fainapotter, and other northern continent countries, allowing people with corresponding nationalities to evacuate in advance and protect them. For example, the owners of the plantations outside the city and their families. Yes, this is likely because the Dream Festival has never shown direct harm. It only caused some townsfolk to suffer from hysteria and attracted an attack from the forest's primitive tribe. The first situation could be resolved by a simple mass. The second problem could be guarded against and fended. Afe Lumion roughly understood the mentality of Admiral Quararil and the patrol team's leaders. Since there wouldn't be any major issues, they would act as if the Dream Festival didn't exist, merely advising the local official Beyonders to be vigilant and guard against any mishaps, while hoping that the Church of the Fool could resolve the hidden dangers. If they were to do more, they might trigger something and worsen the situation. After discussing the matter, Lumion recovered from the discomfort caused by the mystery prying glasses. He took out the unique Eye of Truth and placed it in front of his face. The relatively handsome southern continent native's eyelids twitched at the sight of the pale white flesh, dark blood vessel-like earmuff, and spectacle temple, as well as the blood-colored lens intertwined with transparent purple tubes. How many glasses does Louis Barry own? Moreover, each one is a mystical item. After donning the single lens Eye of Truth, Lumion surveyed his surroundings, seeking to uncover the truth behind reality. As he did so, a voice gradually sounded in his ears, growing louder and more chaotic. Each note and word seemed to materialize, flooding into Lumion's mind. It made him feel as if his head was rapidly expanding like a balloon. If the balloon continued to expand, there would only be one outcome: bursting with a resounding bang. Lumion reached for his ear, ready to remove the Eye of Truth at any moment. He seized the opportunity to scrutinize Hisoka's house. He believed that it was safer to take the risk of prying into the house's secrets before the Dream Festival, while not inside the special dream. It was safer than using the Eye of Truth and mystery prying glasses within the dream itself. Through the purple lens, Lumion couldn't discern much of the truth. Everything appeared similar to what he could see with his naked eye, but the night seemed even darker. Without hesitation, his eye bulged and blood vessels appeared on his body. He abruptly removed the Eye of Truth, and a slightly sharp explosion reverberated in his ears. Phew, panting heavily, Lumion's mind was in disarray, overwhelmed by a barrage of strange knowledge. He couldn't think straight. At that moment, even if someone were to ambush him, he wouldn't be able to react quickly. After more than 10 seconds, Lumion finally regained his ability to think clearly. He instinctively organized the knowledge that had been forcefully injected into his mind. The art of sophistry. How to cultivate superior wheat seeds. Canning techniques. How to roast pork that's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Music to soothe a sow's emotions. The revelation of Evernight. Favorite positions of celebrities, memoirs of those mistresses. What's all this nonsense? Can't there be any useful knowledge? In the past, although Auror had been tormented by the hidden sage's installation of knowledge, she had at least stumbled upon valuable mysticism insights. Wait, had she also been corrupted by such knowledge? Is that why she always portrays a rich theoretical understanding in her books? Lumion rubbed his still throbbing head and said to Riza and Maslow, "I'm going to the edge of the forest to take a look. Do you want to come with me?" Riza nodded, stingy with his words, while Maslow made his stance clear by walking towards the stairs. If Camus were here, he would undoubtedly smile wryly and say, "Do I have a choice?" Lumion mused to himself. He left Hisoka's house and made his way towards the primitive forest near Tizimo town. After crossing the intersection and arriving at another street, Lumion noticed a four-wheeled, four-seater carriage parked at the entrance of the Brieux Motel. An attendant and a lady's maid stepped out of the carriage, carrying their luggage, and followed a man and a woman towards the motel. The man was attired in a dark gray formal suit and a half-top hat. His complexion resembled that of someone from the northern continent, and his side profile was well-defined, with striking dark green eyes. The woman wore a light colored dress that allowed for ease of movement and a feathered hat adorned with pearls. She appeared to be in her late 20s, and her skin was delicate and radiant. One would easily determine that she was a beauty just from glimpsing her side profile. Lumion averted his gaze and turned to Riza and Maslow. "Is it the weekend?" "No," Maslow replied, understanding the implication behind Louis Barry's question. "Gentlemen and ladies often find time to hunt in Tizimo, not just on weekends." Lumion turned to Riza and inquired, "You didn't seal off this area?" "That would only cause unnecessary panic," Riza responded succinctly. Lumion didn't press the matter further. He walked out of the town through the Brieux Motel and ventured into the primitive forest. He delved deeper, along the path he had become familiar with from the dream. Finally, he arrived at the chaotic zone in reality, where various dream fragments intertwined. It was an unremarkable place, indistinguishable from its surroundings. Lumion found a palm tree and sat down. He turned to Riza and Maslow and said, "Keep an eye on my surroundings. I'm going to sleep here." He wanted to see what would happen if he fell asleep closer to the source of the abnormality, if he could enter that peculiar dream, and in what state. Receiving affirmative responses from the two patrol team members, Lumion closed his eyes and attempted cogitation. At some point, he drifted off to sleep. After an unknown period, he awoke. Catching sight of Riza and Maslow, Lumion rose to his feet and nodded thoughtfully. "This place doesn't work either. Is Hisoka's house the only effective location? Or should I find that black boulder and sleep near it?" Lumion gazed into the pitch-black forest, contemplating for a few moments before turning to Riza and Maslow. "Let's head back." The trio swiftly returned to Tizimo. The late night had settled in, and the streets were devoid of any passers-by. No lights or sounds emanated from the houses on either side. Occasionally, the snorts of livestock on the ground floor of the buildings could be heard, accentuating the pervading darkness and silence. The dim crimson moon's light seemed to emphasize the depths of the darkness. On this dark night, Lumion walked along a muddy road, heading towards the Brieux Motel situated deep within the street. Riza and Maslow followed quietly behind him. Suddenly, Lumion's mind spun, and his vision momentarily blurred before clearing. His pupils dilated as he instinctively scanned his surroundings, but found nothing amiss. At that moment, in a vacant house on the ground floor diagonally ahead, a dim candlelight illuminated a room on the third floor. Immediately after, glass windows on the street and throughout Tizimo town were set aglow by the light of burning candles. Ria awoke to find that darkness had already descended, but the candles in many houses continued to burn. This indicated that it wasn't too late. Feeling lazy, Ria had no desire to prepare her own food. Carrying her bow and arrows, she left the room and exited the police headquarters from the side, making her way towards the nearby Bunia Cafe. The streets were nearly deserted, as they were every night. Ria glanced at the tables and chairs still scattered along the street and approached the kitchen counter. In Bhutanese, she said to the busy cafe owner and waiter, Bunia, who had his head lowered, "A glass of kosa and a beef burrito." Bunia paused in the midst of washing cups and looked up. His naturally curly black hair gave him a mixed-blood appearance. He looked at Ria and revealed an obvious, strange smile that made Ria inexplicably uneasy. Ria knew Bunia well and was aware that he was a shy, kind, and adult man who wasn't particularly adept at communicating with women. He had never smiled like this before. Bunia fixed his gaze on Ria and chuckled in a deep voice. "You've got big boobs."